Journalists are in the business of telling the truth. Report what you see, you hear, and you know to be true. One notable exception is when it involves the justice system, at which point everything is couched as accusation and allegation, even when the plain facts scream otherwise. The Boston Marathon bombing was perhaps the most well-documented criminal act in recent memory.
We were looking in that direction right when that bomb went off.
Reporters, most notably from the Boston Globe, saw the grisly aftermath firsthand.
I was watching this scene with despair, with dread. It's something I'm never going to forget.
We were on the scene throughout the manhunt.
I'm going to run back, get way back, because I'm going to close the cover.
We have image after image showing the Tsarnaev brothers at the scene. Jeff Bowman's eyewitness account of Tamerlan dropping his black backpack moments before detonation. The capture of Jahar Tsarnaev in Watertown. Suffice to say, the evidence is overwhelming. So why is he the alleged marathon bomber?
The trial for the accused bomber.
The suspect himself was in court
for his alleged role in the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing.
Technically and legally, he is alleged, innocent until proven guilty. It's a term the media uses to protect itself from liability. But in this case, guilt is a foregone conclusion. All right, so Dan, I never really thought about this because we've been told, all our journalistic lives, we've been told to throw that, although people use it completely wrong. He was allegedly shot. No, he was shot. The question is who shot him. But what, you think we should drop the alleged?
Well,
make your case.
I think there are certain very narrow cases when we should drop the alleged. We're here to report the truth to the best of our ability. And obviously, in almost any case you could think of, there's a little bit of doubt, and you don't want to say that so-and-so did it.
Like Aaron Hernandez?
But we don't know. We don't know. But we know that... No, we don't. But we know that Mark Chapman shot John Lennon.
Well, he's already been convicted of that.
Well, but even beforehand, people saw it, and some of these other things. And in the case of Jahar Tsarnaev, I wouldn't have a big problem if somebody simply described him as the Boston Marathon bomber, because the evidence is overwhelming to the point of there is virtually no other side to this.
What do you think, Dante? You're the Globe. You're not going to get rid of that alleged.
I don't think you can. Alleged in this case, used moderately properly is the tribute that we pay to the idea of innocent until proven guilty. There's no way of putting these facts together in a way that suggests that he's not one of the perpetrators. It's awkward because his brother, who was killed, you know, in the firefight with police, you can refer to, you know, when a suspect is dead, we habitually refer to them as the bomber, as the terrorist, as the gunman. This is a situation where somebody who is obviously connected is still alive. But there are many other situations, most other situations, where someone's role is not as clear-cut, and preserving the idea that we should, until the legal system has adjudicated something, withhold simply stating that somebody's the bomber feels like a reasonable act of hygiene to me.
But we're not part of the legal system. We observe the legal system. We
observe the legal system, but nevertheless, there have been enough situations where people who appeared guilty very early on in a situation are convicted in the eyes of the public, and reminding ourselves and the public that this is a matter that's still being adjudicated, I don't think is terrible.
You know, though, it's one of the stories that I read this morning pointed out, when you call someone the alleged bomber, the alleged murderer, their reputation is already kind of ruined because people think, oh,
bomber, murderer.
Exactly. And you and I were talking earlier today, Emily, about the difficulty of getting jurors for the Tsarnaev trial who don't think he's guilty. You know, it's interesting. The jurors are all thinking he's guilty. We're all thinking he's guilty. So it does beg the question: how do you ever get a fair trial for this guy if everybody thinks he's guilty going in? But I just always put alleged because that was what the editors told you to do, because they didn't want somebody to get sued. And if you that was like the little fig leaf you would hold up, and he's the alleged person until he's been convicted, and then once he's convicted you can call him the murderer or the bomber or anything else.
I don't get what is to be gained by not using alleged or accused. Clarity?
Truth.
Well, true, but right now he is the accused Boston Marathon bomber. He is not the convicted Boston Marathon bomber. So why not give the most precise description possible, while at the same time recognizing that legally speaking, he has not been found guilty of the deed yet. I just don't see what the downside is.
I don't think there's a huge downside to doing it. I mean, I'm not getting up on a soapbox and saying we must stop using the term alleged, but I mean, he clearly is the Boston Marathon bomber in reality.
I have no idea if the defense is going to do this, but what if they try to argue when we finally get through jury selection that, in fact, his brother played a much more instrumental role and that he went along with his brother, he was providing morals. I don't know if they're going to make that argument.
Doesn't make him less innocent.
Well, but I don't, I mean, it might make him something other than the marathon bomber. It might make him an accomplice. And again, I don't think that's the case. I'm pretty sure he did it, but I don't see why we can't acknowledge the doubt that still does exist. But
It's unlikely to go away. I mean, I always say it isn't our job to be concerned about how families feel or how the jurors feel, but I mean, you know, if you're calling somebody the bomber, you know, you could taint, a jury pool, although they're not supposed to be listening to any of the coverage right now.
Isn't that what Rolling Stone called him on the cover? The bomber? I think they did.
Can't remember.
Well, you also think, is he going to sue? He probably is not.
Who's going to sue?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's not going to sue.
Shoplifting mother?
So.
You know what? I can live with it as long as we don't use the phrase the alleged victim.
His mother was never accused. It was never found guilty of shoplifting.
So what do you say
if
it's a rape case and the person is alleging that he or she was raped? How do you describe the victim?
Oh, well, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. I guess I'm thinking of the alleged murder victim. You know,
okay.
that's
That's
ridiculous.
Yeah, I think we can get rid of the alleged.